Okay, this is a video about a book, the book of apples. This is called The Apple Book by Rosie Sanders. It's published by in conjunction with the Royal Horticultural Society. The publisher is Francis Limited, which has a limited publisher, which has published a lot of books about gardening and horticulture. This one is in the UK, £22.50, and in America is £35. In Canada is $35. In Canada is $38.99. That is in Canadian dollar, of course. The book is in the large format. It has 168 pages. Is thoroughly illustrated with the hand drawings of the apples, and the date of the publication is 2010. And this edition of it was published in 2014. It's softback. It existed in hardback also. I bought it when I was in London from the Folds bookshop in the Charing Cross Road. Okay, the contents is the introduction, the identification of apples, the plates, of course, the plates about the apples, growing apples, that's a guide for that, classification table, index of apples, acknowledgements, and bibliography. It is very informative in being about apples. There is a good introduction in two large format rectangular pages. Now the identification of apples. First thing is that the terminology. Did you know, for example, the apple has something called cells where the actual seeds are there. Then core, of course, core, line, tube, stamen, sepals, eye, that's the bottom of the apple, eye basin, apex, and cavity and stalk, that's the tail of the apple, base, and flesh and cheek, these are called cheeks. The shape of the apples, you can, by the skin and shape, flat, round, conical, long, conical, round, conical, oblong, conical, and you can actually see that in real apples. I have an example of apple. This is apple variety discovery. And you can see that it matches almost with the shape of a flat, round, or probably with flat. Or slightly with the round one also. Probably more round. It's interesting in different apples, how different shapes. That can be more round to flat round. This is apple variety discovery, of course, for our own tree. And apples can have very beautiful shapes. And okay, now the core, line, stem, and all the shapes, cavity, internal characteristics, tree characteristics, the shape of the leaves, oval, broadly oval, narrow oval, acute, broadly acute, narrow acute, upright, the habits of the tree, upright is spreading, wide is spreading, compact, and weeping. The names are actually suggesting what they are about. Then starts the main part of the book, which is about the apple varieties, and beautifully illustrated with the hand drawings. Beautiful, they're really nice. And you may like actually to see what it says about the apple variety discovery. I have an example I showed before, other examples of the apple. And when you compare it with that, the resemblance is really beautifully close. These are the last of the apples that we have harvested from this year. Slightly damaged in our case, but anyway, this is just because I picked it a little bit late. This year, apples, I think, were 2 weeks earlier than last year. So last year, I picked our apples by the first segment of 1/3 of the month of the August in the first 10 days. And they were already ready. And this time, at the same time I picked it, they were overripe a little bit. So practically, we had a very peculiar season this year. Everything was earlier. But the resemblance is there, you can see. What is interesting is that this apple is described here. Then the size, the shape, then the skin, the stalk, cavity, eye, basin, all this terminology. Tube, stamen, core, line, core, cells, seeds, leaves, and pollination groups are explained. And beside that, you see the shape of the blossom. What I have done, and I see nobody before me has done, is that I have made a video guide about the smells of the different blossoms of apple. Of course, those ones that I had in my own orchard. 11 tapes, 11 varieties, I can say. So that is interesting. I have done something that before me nobody has done. And that is the making a video guide. Kind of reference for the smells of the apple blossom. And I can say that the apple blossom of the Discovery is really one of the most aromatic. It was probably 9 of 10 or 10 of 10. You have to refer to my videos. I have an extensive video about this. That's just about the apples smell. The smell of the blossoms. The book, as you see, is very extensive. Interesting enough, actually. The apples are, when they show the profile of the apple, they show them by the stalk toward the lower part and the eye of the apple on top. So that's the way they draw. Probably that's the official way, I don't know. And yeah, the book, after this section about the different apples, plates as they call it here, I have to hold it by hand. Restrict the forms of the apple, cordon. These are the terminology. If you are buying apples from websites, from catalogs, you will see that. Cordons are these ones. One stem at an angle. Spalier is like that, like a kind of, what you can call it, like, yeah, pylon, electric pylons. Dwarf pyramid, fan is actually is self-explaining, it's like a fan. Then the different rootstock means that the vigor of the tree is controlled by the amount of food that the root provides to the tree. So M27 is the smallest because the root system cannot provide or will not provide more than a certain amount of the sap to the tree. So it cannot rise more than that amount. So the tree is smaller than 1 meter. M9, M26, that is a variety I like to go to. I will go for more M26 from this season probably. M106, and you get more apple also. The bigger the tree, of course, is you get more apple. M106, M1111. The thing interesting is that when you train your apple in this spalier shape, the tree actually thinks the horizontal branches are older than usual. So the tree thinks that it's older than usual, what is actually it is. So it gives fruit earlier in its life. Then how you plant a tree, apple tree, and the story goes on. How you store the apples. Then the season of the apples, which explains what's going on to happen. Apple sawfly, probably this one that I had in the, I think it was caused by the apple sawfly. These little things that I have here on these Discovery apples. Then the pollination groups. Did you know that the apple, if it is a normal apple, biploid, it means that it needs a male and female cells just to mix and just make an apple. But some apples are not like that. Some apples are triploid instead of biploid. They're triploid. It means they need, beside that male and female providing the thing, they need another also apple to provide another pollen, so they can actually be producing a viable offspring, which is in the form of the fruit and seed inside it. So these are the terminology that you will see in any reasonable, any respectful catalog that it talks. Mostly in in a catalog, like a keeper's nursery catalog, the most extensive catalog of apples I've seen. And okay, these are recommended cultivars, are also pollination tables, groupings. Which group can? These are the groups that means that they can pollinate with each other or help others to pollinate. Classification tables is a little bit complex. I have to look into it, and the index of the apples. This is a good book. I recommend it because it's actually pictures of the apples, and the pictures, as I've shown in the case of the Discovery apple, are representing the actual shape of the apple. So if you have a Discovery apple, it really looks like apples that you have. And let me just go to page 16 again, or what page it was. Discovery, page 19. It's easily representative of apple Discovery, as you see by the shape. So this is a good book to have. If you are in the UK, you can buy it at the price shown. In America, or you can buy it probably cheaper if you go to discount websites. If you find it, or if you're lucky, find it second-hand bookshops.